Denial. Some people respond to failure by refusing to fully accept that it happened. They may blame bad luck, unfair circumstances, or other people instead of looking directly at the situation. In small amounts, this can protect a person from emotional shock. The mind often tries to soften painful experiences before it is ready to process them completely. Yet when denial lasts too long, it prevents learning. A failed exam becomes rigged. A rejected project becomes misunderstood. Over time, the person stops adapting because every setback is treated as something external rather than something that can be studied or improved. Self-blame. Others move in the opposite direction and place the entire weight of failure onto themselves. Instead of saying, "something went wrong," they begin saying, "I am wrong." This reaction often develops in people who were praised mainly for achievement or who grew up in highly critical environments. Failure starts to feel personal rather than temporary. Historically, many competitive systems in schools and workplaces have reinforced this mindset by treating mistakes as signs of weakness instead of part of growth. Self-blame can create humility and reflection, but in extreme forms, it slowly damages confidence. The person becomes afraid to try again because every mistake feels like proof of inadequacy. Avoidance. Some people respond to failure by quietly stepping away from the thing that hurt them. They stop applying, stop creating, or stop participating altogether. At first, avoidance can feel calming because it removes the source of stress. Someone who fails publicly may retreat into privacy for weeks or months simply to escape embarrassment. The problem is that avoidance often grows stronger over time. The longer a person stays away from the challenge, the larger it begins to appear in their mind. Many unrealized ambitions disappear, not because people lacked ability, but because they slowly disconnected themselves from trying again. Obsession. Failure can also create the opposite reaction. Instead of walking away, a person becomes consumed by correcting the loss immediately. They replay conversations, rethink decisions, and work endlessly to recover what was lost. This pattern is common in highly driven environments where identity is tied closely to success. Athletes, entrepreneurs, and artists sometimes enter periods of intense fixation after major setbacks. Obsession can produce remarkable improvement because it forces deep focus, but it can also become unhealthy. The person may sacrifice sleep, relationships, or emotional stability in pursuit of repairing a single failure. Humor. Jokes create emotional distance and make painful experiences easier to share with others. Throughout history, humor has often appeared during difficult periods because it gives people a sense of control over situations they cannot fully change. Someone who laughs about being rejected or embarrassed is not always ignoring the pain. Sometimes they are reducing its power. Humor can make failure feel survivable, especially in social settings where shame might otherwise become overwhelming. Still, if every serious feeling is hidden behind jokes, deeper emotions may never actually be addressed. Anger. For some individuals, failure quickly turns into frustration and aggression. Anger creates energy, and that energy can temporarily replace feelings of helplessness. A failed attempt may lead someone to lash out at coworkers, competitors, systems, or even themselves. In many cultures, anger has historically been treated as a more acceptable emotion than sadness, particularly for men. Because of this, disappointment is often expressed through irritation rather than vulnerability. Anger can motivate action in the short term, but it rarely provides clarity. Decisions made in that emotional state are often reactive rather than thoughtful. Acceptance. Acceptance happens when a person fully recognizes the reality of failure without exaggerating or denying it. This does not mean they enjoy the experience or stop caring about the outcome. It simply means they stop fighting reality itself. Acceptance usually develops slowly. After enough reflection, the person begins to separate the event from their identity. They understand that failure is information, not a permanent label. Many psychological approaches emphasize acceptance because it creates stability. Once a person stops wasting energy resisting what already happened, they can finally decide what to do next. Reinvention. Some failures become turning points that completely redirect a person's life. A rejected career path, failed business, or broken plan sometimes forces someone to explore areas they would never have considered otherwise. History is filled with examples of writers, inventors, and public figures who only found their defining work after earlier ambitions collapsed. Reinvention often begins with discomfort because the old identity no longer feels secure. Over time, however, failure can reveal strengths that success had previously hidden. In this way, losing one path occasionally creates the conditions for discovering another. Resilience. Resilience is the ability to continue moving after failure without becoming emotionally destroyed by it. It does not mean feeling no pain. Resilient people still experience disappointment, embarrassment, and doubt. The difference is that they recover more steadily. Usually, this comes from repeated exposure to challenges over time. People who have survived earlier setbacks often develop a wider perspective on future ones. They begin to understand that most failures are temporary moments rather than permanent endings. Resilience matters because life rarely moves in a perfectly controlled direction. The ability to continue despite setbacks often becomes more valuable than avoiding setbacks entirely.